Hi, this is Kathleen from Sunny Mountain Patterns. I'm going to show you how to make a flutter sleeve from a regular short sleeve pattern. This is my Etsy shop, but I'm going to be using this pattern. It's got short sleeve, sleeveless, and long sleeve options. It's the Allspice Peter Pan color. Shameless plug here. This is going to be on Illustrator for those of you that have Illustrator. Now, the thing is if you have a PDF, you may have a problem importing. So I just opened up a large sheet. This is like a 200 square inches sheet, and I'm gonna go ahead. I'll show you the problem here. If you got lucky and the designer did not lock their PDF file, you'll be able to import it. But most designers will lock their files because they're trying to protect it from being stolen. And I understand because I'm a designer too, and I lock mine as well. But if you can, you want to go to File, Place, or Shift Control P if you're on a computer. Not a computer, if you're on a Windows. I'm going to use a projector file just because it's easier to see. And then press Enter. So it's asking me for the password. I know the password for mine, but if not, maybe if I actually typed it in right. Okay. And it's going to float around. You can click it wherever you would like. This is the projector version, so it's thicker. Now, the problem is this is all grouped together. You can, of course, work with it, but that's going to be a bit problematic because you've got all these nested sizes. If you don't want to try to bother with this, or it's locked, you can use PDF Stitcher to find the size that you want. And then import that special PDF. If not, and you have Inkscape, go ahead and go to Open Inkscape and press File, Import. Now select that particular one. This is A0, this is the locked one, so we'll see if this does it. And just say OK. I'm actually going to undo this because I want to use the projector file. Give it a little bit of time to think. Inkscape's a little bit slower than Illustrator, it's old. And this is an older version. So you have here, I'm going to actually import the PDF because I'm at the projector version because I have nice thick lines already. I don't have to do anything. Same thing. If this is a pattern that you have that's printed, so it's tiled, you're going to have to run it through PDF Stitcher first. Now, please note, don't take somebody else's pattern, do a little bit of adjustment, and then resell it as yours. That's it's not nice. And I think somewhat illegal, but I'm not going to comment on the legality. So here, I have it all together. I have layered pattern pieces for the sizes. So this is convenient for you, but you have to ungroup them. So Object, Ungroup, or Shift Control G. Give it a second to think. It's going to have all these dashed lines. Now, if you don't have Inkscape or you don't want to do Inkscape, you're going to have to just work with all of the pattern pieces nested together. So here is the short sleeve. Now you can see that these are all grouped together by sizes because I had it layered. If it's not layered, it's not going to be grouped by sizes. You'll just grab the one piece you need. So we can either copy all of this together if you like, because you might want all the pattern pieces plus make the flutter sleeve. So let's go ahead and do that. If not, you can ungroup one more time by Shift Control G or Object Ungroup, and it will do the same thing. You can just grab what you need. But I'm going to import. You know what? Yeah, just copy this all together if you like, but if you only want to manipulate the short sleeve and you want to be able to rearrange the pieces, you're going to have to ungroup here in Inkscape. It will not let you do it in Illustrator. Trust me, I've tried it. So I'm just going to copy all this so it's all together, go back to Illustrator and paste this. Now, there's actually not much of an advantage of doing this in Illustrator if you already have Inkscape up because you have to do the secondary step to get the individual sizes. So what you can do here is you might want to just do this left-hand side. So I'm going to zoom in on it so it's easy to see. Now I have to switch back to Illustrator shortcut keys. If you watch my Inkscape version, which I did earlier today, I kept using the Illustrator shortcut keys. Anyway, press P, that'll bring up the Bezier pen. We're going to trace small sections. Let me either add a new layer by going to Window, Layers, or F7, add a new layer, and work on that only, and lock this layer by pressing this middle button, or highlighting and object lock. I don't even use that. I just press Control 2 and it locks the whole layer. If you don't want it all locked, you press Shift Control 2 and unlock everything. No, sorry, Control 2 will unlock everything. Or you can go to unlock all, which I already did. So it's object lock selection. You have to actually select it. But I'm going to leave that layer. I'm going to work in layer 2. You can label it whatever you like. So here, I'm going to press P or pen, which is, depending on how your workspace is set up, going to be on the left-hand side. I know that Illustrator has a bunch of different ways of setting this up, so just use P. I'm just going to work on the right-hand side. So we're going to zoom in a little bit more so I can see. Zoom is Alt and scroll button forward or backwards. The scroll wheel forward or backwards. So here, I'm going to click here. We're just going to do little sections. Press Enter and then line it up until you see that line under the pen. So Illustrator is really good about making gradations of horizontal, but if you want completely horizontal or vertical, press Shift and then hold down here. And then we're gonna go right by the middle and click up. That's gonna be your first section. Now let me have a discussion about what we're doing. We're doing something called slash and spread. So essentially, if you had this as a pattern piece, we would be doing a cut here, a cut, I'm wild guessing this, by the way, and a cut here. We'd be doing several of these cuts, taking a scissors and cutting along this line to the very tippy top, but not all the way. And then basically, if you can see my hand, where's it? There we go. Doing this, spreading it out to get fullness on the bottom to create that bell sleeve or puff sleeve if you want. So we're basically, this is the simple way. We're trying to create and trace these into small pieces. So when I click on this, I actually have the right hand, the direct selection tool, which you can press A to do. I'm gonna do, for the most part, shortcut keys now because it's much easier for me and faster. So we have the first section. I want to change the color here, so I'm going to go ahead and remember how to change the color. That would be good. Anyway, that doesn't matter. We'll do it later. We're going to do the next section. Sorry. Press V because, okay, I do remember how to change the color. You click on this little box here. Oh, cool. That's good. P again. And I'm going to lock this Control 2 because I don't want to move this, but I do want to use it as a guideline. Press P again for the pen. We want this as a guideline because I'm going to make this chunky just to make this faster. I'm tracing the line by clicking and dragging. You see how there's a, wish I could circle it, but my mouse is being used. There is a line that pops up to the lower right-hand corner of the pen indicator. And we're going to hold Shift to keep this nice and aligned until it hits the path. Here, click and drag because this is slightly curved. Enter. I don't want that little doohickey. And you see that line? It looks like a dash, actually. And then scroll up until it hits the anchor. Now, if you're not happy with how this is mimicking, you can go ahead and grab the handle by pressing A if it's not showing up. Grab the handle and move it slightly until it pretty closely mimics. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect. Remember, if it's just for you, if you're doing this actual drafting, you probably want to make it as accurate as possible. Okay, so we're going to lock this as well. Again, it can be object lock, selection, or control 2. Click here, click and drag. To get that curve, we're going to press enter. I don't want that to be curvy. Anchor it on to the corner. This does not need to be up and down because this is the underarm seam. Mind you, this already has seam allowance, and we're going to complete this. We need complete shapes. So I can actually, if you want to move this piece here, it's slightly off. You can see that there. Press A. There we go. And we'll just move the piece. If you need to, use the arrows, because sometimes that's a bit less frustrating than doing it by hand. Okay. So here is where we're going to start spreading it. We're going to have to move these two pieces over. I'm going to leave the center piece as is, because if not, if I rotate it, the inflection point for where the shoulder is going to be all funky looking. Trust me, I tried it. So if you want to spread more, to have more of a flutter, so fuller sleeve bottom, please put more of these in. I just, for simplicity's sake, I'm doing this. So we're going to press V because I want to select both of these. Oh, I'm sorry, they're locked. Control-Alt-2 to unlock them. If you can't remember where that is, it's Object, and there's an Unlock All. So we're going to click on this path and Shift and click this path, or just highlight and have the marquee go over at least some of the piece. Now we're going to rotate both pieces. This is important. Don't do this one and then this one. You want them to rotate together and then rotate so center line out by pressing R. And you notice that this light blue cross hatching shows up here. We don't want it there. We want to click at this corner here, and that anchors it. Now we can grab the lower right hand. It doesn't really matter, any of the anchors. Click and drag, and it'll rotate everything. Oh, okay, so notice I put the anchor too far away. Just undo that. Just press R again, or click on your selection tool or press V. So we're gonna shift or marquee over what we want to. Oh, for good Lord, I undid it. You have to unlock them again. Sorry, I undid it, so I locked them. I'm just pressing Shift and clicking, or you can marquee over. You can't do it in Illustrator. In Inkscape, you have to highlight the entire thing. But in Illustrator, you can marquee over just the lines you want to pick up. All right, press R for rotate. Click the correct anchor point, and then grab and rotate. Now we're going to press V to get out of there. Click on the next piece, which is the last piece for me. If you have more, you're gonna have more pieces to do, but you need to highlight those. Oh boy, if you heard a thump, that was my 5-year-old. Move the piece and rotate. All right, so now we're ready for the slash and spread. We're gonna trace. You can add another layer, or you can lock these pieces by highlighting them all and pressing Shift to get them all, and then press Control-2. Or you can add another layer. This is up to you. I'm going to go ahead and lock it. So I'm going to work on the same layer. Press P. Let's go ahead and change the color so it's easier to see. If you're colorblind, I sincerely apologize. I'm going to go with blue, okay? So we're going to trace this curve as closely as possible, and then we're going to make up the rest of this curve down here. So anytime there's an inflection point, that's probably where you want to put a curve. And then click here, press enter. Don't worry about this yet, we'll fix that. Now we're going to wait until the anchor in that line shows up down here. And then this is a nice smooth curve, so we're actually just going to click all the way on the left hand side of the center and click and drag. and press enter because you don't need the other curve. So you can see how it's nice and smooth. And hover over the lines and click them together. Or this is a nice, if you press A, which is the direct selection tool, click on the path and hold shift down, click the other path, right click and say join. It'll join them together. Then you know it's one big piece. So now you have your pattern piece here. Oop, I'm sorry, I promised we would fix this curve here. So press A or click the direct selection tool. In my case, it's on the left. Click on the node and do a little bit of finagling. Oops. So if you want to be able to do this side as well, you will click on this button, convert anchor points to smooth. You have to shorten this handle here to be exactly on the anchor point. So it's a corner, and then now you can do a little bit of manipulation. So this should make it so, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, which is Alt, hold Alt, and then as you're holding Alt, use your scroll wheel forward or backwards. It's a control if you're in Inkscape. Doesn't have to be exactly right. Good enough is good enough, you know what I mean? But if you're a stickler, then go ahead and try to do this. Okay. So now, if you press V, we can touch everything and move it. That is your pattern. If you want to make it a little bit fuller, of course you spread it out a bit more, but don't touch the shoulder area, because that's going to match up with your arm side. Now here's a bonus. If you want to do some gathers, you can make this a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna unlock these by pressing Control Alt 2, and you can move the pieces over. Okay. We can move this here. Spread it out a little bit. You should actually spread this before, but I'm lazy. We're gonna pretend we didn't spread this yet, okay? Just okay, can you see how this is not spread out right? Because I didn't spread it. Okay. So if you want the spreading, I would suggest to move this out just horizontally to have some gathers on the top if you want it poofy on the shoulder region as well, because you have to remember to gather this, by the way. And then you can rotate by clicking on both pieces and then doing the same thing. It's just going to look slightly different, and then trace over. And then we, same thing. Using the R for rotate, moving the center, that's the light blue button, over to the corner. And then now we trace. It's going to be much different than this pattern piece. So if I press V, so I can select it and impose over, you can see how different these are. Of course, I didn't rotate as much. I mean, even if I rotated a lot here, it's going to stick out a lot more, just because it's going to be bigger, so you can have gathers on the shoulder cap. So if we're done with this, you can see the difference between the original and the new one. So if you want to make it mirrored like I have, press V, because you want to just select, you don't want to select, the pieces. Go to Object and Transform, and it's Reflect. Ignore the Control F1. I set that up as a special thing. So you want the vertical and make a copy. And I'm just grabbing and moving it over. If you want it completely aligned, hold shift as you drag it. Click and hold shift as you drag it over. It'll maintain it on the same horizontal plane. And okay, there we go. So now I have it mirrored like I did for my original. And this is on a separate layer. You can combine the layers. It's a little bit complicated, but just leave it as is. So then you can do a file and save as. You're gonna do that as a PDF. So this is 6T flutter sleeve. Why is this so big? There we go. So we're gonna save. It's gonna come up with some options. I have preserve Acrobat layers from top level layer. This way I can do different sizes, but in this case I only have one size. So you're actually gonna have two sizes. You can toggle on and off the flutter layer. Don't worry about anything else. If you want security, this is how you set password. But if it's just for you, don't worry. Again, don't take somebody else's pattern and do a little bit of a change and then try to pass it off as yours. That's stealing. So if it's for personal use, okay, we're gonna save the PDF. So just press save PDF and it should show up as is. You also probably want to actually save this so you can do your own edits later on. So that's how to do flutter sleeves on Illustrator. I also have an Inkscape version if you want to go ahead and check that out. I don't know how to add on links, so just, I guess, search for it on YouTube. Okay, thank you.